This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be piping a set of chrysanthemum cupcakes. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to make several colors today for our cupcake set, and we're going to use the following liquid gel colors with our American style buttercream: lemon yellow, buckeye brown, royal blue, red, and finally, some sunset orange. We're making a nice kind of fall color palette, so we're going to use a little of that brown in pretty much everything we do. And we're going to start with some ivory. I've got quite a bit here. I'm using it to ice some of my cupcakes and do a little piped technique on them. And I've just got a little bit of my lemon yellow and my buckeye brown out here because I just want to use some specks. I want to make a nice light ivory color. So I'm just going to use a little bit of yellow and a tiny touch of brown. And I just want it to have a slightly more intense profile than that kind of off-white ivory color that the buttercream already is. I just want to make it kind of go with everything else. Just want to bump up that color a little bit. It gives me a nice kind of beautiful, soft, light tan color that I think is going to make a great background for our fall colors. Our next shade is going to be some burnt orange, and we just want to start with some sunset orange. Just give it a few specks, and then just a tiny little touch or two of that brown. Maybe get just a little bit of that yellow in there too, just to make a nice kind of fall shade that has like that antique vibe to it. And I don't necessarily want it to be super bright or intense. I'm going for more of like a medium tone. So I'm just going to start with these colors, see how I like it. Keep in mind that the colors will deepen over time, so I don't want to go too heavy on my color. Just maybe one more round of color, and that should take us to a nice little shade there. And adding just a touch of that buckeye brown is a great way to give your kind of pastel and lighter shades of kind of antique-y vibe. Gives it that kind of fall, like harvesty feeling. I think that's going to be lovely with our other colors. Next up is going to be a little golden yellow. So I'm going to go heavier with my lemon yellow. You can see I've just got a little bit of buttercream in there. I'm going to use this to pipe a few little like marigolds. So I want this to be a little more intense of a shade, but I want to do the same thing. Add just a touch of that brown, a little bit of that orange to give myself a nice golden kind of vibe to it. Give it a nice kind of fall feel. I want to keep in mind, feel like that kind of like field of sunflowers, kind of haystacky vibe is going to be perfect. So I like where this is going. I'm just going to add a tiny more touch of orange, a little bit more of that brown, and I think that's going to be perfect. You can see that gives us a beautiful shade of that kind of goldeny yellow. Reminds me of a little yellow brick road. It's going to work well with our other colors. Our next color is going to be a shade of kind of burgundy. So think maroons, burgundies, deep kind of fall reds. I don't have much color in there, and I don't need to make it too dark. So I'm just going to start with a single drop of my red, if it'll cooperate and come off. Come on, there we go. And then just a tiny touch of royal blue, just to kind of make it a little cool, and a little bit of brown. And go really light on the blue and the brown because we want it to feel red. We don't want it to get too muddy. but we do want to give it the same kind of fall vibe as our other colors. Right now we're still looking really pink, so definitely want to do another drop, but we're making a small amount of color, so you want to start light, especially with that red. Just so you don't end up being too intense and kind of oversaturated. And I think this might actually do it. So once it has a little time to deepen up, this should give us a nice kind of lovely red that has a nice fall feel to it. I think I'm just going to go a tiny touch more to finish it off with that blue and my brown, just to really make sure that it has that burgundy maroon vibe. And when you're mixing colors, if you're doing things and you're not exactly sure how it's going to look when it deepens, just give it a couple of hours to sit, do its thing and develop a little bit, and go back and check it, because you can always tweak things and readjust them. But that's giving me a nice kind of like, it looks like burgundy, it's just a couple of shades light, so it feels like it's still in that kind of like deep mauve kind of phase. When it darkens, it should be a nice burgundy for us, so that's going to be great. Also going to play well with everything else we've made. Next, we're going to do a little bit of green. And for this, we're going to use some lemon, some royal, and just a little bit of our brown. And for this one, we're trying to make a light shade. And I want to go a little heavier on my lemon. So just give it a nice little healthy dose of that. A couple of specks, and just one of my blue and a tiny one of that brown. And I'm just trying to put a little bit of that brown in every color. Just a little tiny touch, because it kind of gives everything a similar vibe, makes them all kind of go together a little bit. And that's looking good. I think I just want it just a tiny touch more intense. Because I'm going to use some of this next to that cream color I made. So I don't want them to be too close in value, because I don't want them to blend together and get lost. Just go a little more color in there so I get a slightly deeper hue, and then that's going to kind of pop off a little bit. It'll help it stand out just a touch more. And for our final shade today, we're going to make some darker green. So for this one, I'm going to use some drops. And I want it to be a little more towards the blue end of the spectrum. So I'm going to go 2 blue to 1 yellow. If my blue will behave, there it goes. And then I'm going to give myself a couple healthy little specks there of that brown as well. So this will take it more in a kind of forest green direction. And should give me a nice kind of intense color to put in there. Just give a few pops here and there to really help some of those more pastel and medium tone shades that we created stand out and really pop off. And kind of help show off our work a little bit. Just going to give it a little more brown. There we go. And we'll give it that same beautiful earthy vibe that all of our other colors have. For this project, we're going to use 6 decorating bags. I've chosen 12-inch disposable. You can use whatever works for you. And you can see we're using couplers with 2 of them because we're going to be changing tips. For our burnt orange, we're using a number 81. For our yellow, we're using a number 12 and a number 81. The burgundy is in a bag with a number 7. Our cream color is in a bag with the number 808. This is a large one, and we'll be using it to pipe decorations on our cupcakes. For a light green, we'll be using a 102, a number 1, and a number 2. And finally, our dark green is in a bag with a number 104 tip. We're going to review the techniques, so the base parts of each of the elements that we're going to use for this chrysanthemum cupcake set. And we're going to start with the actual chrysanthemums. We want to use the number 12 tip to create a mound, so just think a nice little dot. And I'm just using the 12 tip I have on my yellow. It's going to get completely covered up, so you won't even see the yellow showing through the orange we're going to use for the petals. Things to remember when we're piping dots: up off the surface, nice squeeze straight up and down to let it balloon out. When you're ready to stop, relax your pressure and circle around to make a nice finish. The petals on this flower are created using an 81, and they're kind of spike style petals. So we want to just get our bag ready to go, squeeze and let it connect, and then we're going to pull up. And depending on which part, we're going to pull in different directions. And when we have that little mound in the center and our other elements going, it'll kind of support those. But just remember to pull along the angle of the bag, and we're going to make these great, beautiful petals with them. Do another one there so it stands straight up. But once we get our structure built, those petals will end up being supported and they won't flop as much on us, and we'll get these beautiful wild looks to our chrysanthemums. The other element for our chrysanthemum are going to be some nice little spikes, and these are kind of like little stamens in the middle. We're going to use our number 2 tip for these, so we just want to squeeze a dot, let that frosting connect, and then pull up while we're still squeezing. And we're just going to pull straight up, and doing a nice clump of these in the center of our flower is going to give us a nice little support structure for those lovely petals we're going to create. For our hypericum, we're going to use our burgundy with a number 7 to create dots. We're also going to use a number 1 with the green. For the dots in the number 7, we're going to go just like a regular dot, squeeze out, let it balloon, and then we're just going to pull up slowly just to elongate it a bit before we stop and finish it off. And that's going to give it a slightly taller look that's going to make it look like a berry. We're going to do the same regular kind of dots we normally would for number 1, so I'm going to skip demoing that and just go in with our little leaves. We're going to use our 102, and we're just making some nice little round leaves, and it'll be easier to do on our cupcake or on our flower nail, just to get that nice little spin action that'll help it rotate and fan out and give us a beautiful, nice rounded look on the outside edge of those petals. But just holding it the normal way we would anytime we're piping a little petal, but in this case we're doing them in green so they look like little leaves on the bottom of those berries. For our marigolds, the first step is a mound, so it's a dot, just like we did before for our chrysanthemum, and we're going to use the same bag and tip, so I'm not going to repeat piping that. The petals, however, for this one are just a little different. We're going to do these on our flower nail because it's going to be the easiest way to do them, and you just want to pull out along the surface and then pull up. And that's going to give us the characteristic little look of these petals that kind of fold out almost flat and then flare up at the ends. And just when we get into the center, they're just going to be super, super short. So we're just going to pull up almost right away. And finally, we're also going to do some ruffled leaves. These are really easy ones. We're going to use our 104 tip. And you just want to think about drawing little loop or kind of upside down teardrop shapes with that leaf tip. I like to do odd numbers, but it gives us a nice little ruffly leaf that pairs great with the marigolds and other flowers in this set. Speaking of which, we have great flower series videos on all of these blossoms and even the leaves. So if you want more detailed explanations and overviews for the techniques, and you want to watch some of these individual lessons, we definitely recommend clicking on those as well. You're going to get a really detailed lesson on each of the individual blossoms. We're going to pipe some marigolds ahead of time, and I've got my 2-inch flower nail out. I've got a little piece of parchment on top, and I'm going to start with my bag of my golden yellow with the number 12 tip on it. I'm going to go straight up and down above the surface, squeeze, let that frosting connect, make a nice dot, and then swirl to finish it off after you stop squeezing. We've changed tips for our 81. I'm going to set myself up. My bag's at 45 degrees. The back end is pointing off towards 3 o'clock because I'm right-handed. It's going to be easy for me to pull in that direction. And I'm just going to start at the base of my dot, pull out and up. You don't have to make these too long. Just make sure you go really tight, right next to one another as you go out. Just glide along the surface till you get to the end, and then make sure you give it a nice flick up as you're ending. I'm going to try to keep them all kind of approximately the same length, but if some are a little longer, a little shorter, that's not really a big deal. It adds just a little natural variation. So you want to go all the way around back to the beginning, and then we're going to move up the side of our dot a little bit and do another row. We're just going to go offset from the one before. A little shorter so you don't run into your beautiful work before. So just pull out and flick up a little bit quicker. Until you make it all the way around to the beginning again. And we're just going to keep going up the side, out, flick up at the end. And you can see 3 rows up. Break this almost kind of the top surface area. Just rock your bag up a little bit and keep pulling out just a tiny touch, just barely, and then up. And then just keep working. If you need to, keep going towards 90 degrees with the back end of the bag. Spin, circle, and you can see these last ones, we pull just almost straight up. And just keep going until you fill the entire surface area of the top. And that gives us a beautiful, natural, soft-looking little marigold there. We're going to use 2 of these for a project. So I'm going to move this one off my nail onto a tray and pipe a second one. I'm going to get them in the refrigerator so they're chilled and nice and firm, and that'll make them easy to remove off of this paper. We've prepped our cupcakes for today's activity, and we've crumb coated 4 of them with a little of the extra cream, buttercream that we made. And then we've done a dot style on 2 of them just to prepare them for our decorative elements. If you don't know how to do these, try checking out our basic cupcake style video. It covers 5 classic ways to decorate your cupcakes, plus our little prep style here. And that'll help you get ready for today's lesson. So let's start making our chrysanthemum cupcake. And I've got a sample piped here. You can see we're going to go in and do our little leaves first, and then we're going to work from our center out. And we've got our bags ready to go, so we're going to show you those as well. We've got our yellow with our 12 tip to make our center, our green with our 104, our lighter green with our number 2, and finally that fun little fall burnt orange with our 81. And I've got a blank cupcake here. And I'm going to start just with my leaves because I want to get them on, and down at the bottom, we're going to start with our green, our 104 tip, and I'm just going to put some leaves on the outside edge. Just in one spot, give us a little bit of green. You can put on 2, 3, whatever works for you. Once you got your leaves on there and you like what they're doing, let's put on a center. So I've just got my excess yellow in my bag with my number 12 tip, and I'm just going to start piping up off the surface. Nice squeeze, give ourselves a good dot there, something to really build our chrysanthemum on. Next, we're going to grab our lighter green with our number 2 tip. Start there in the middle and just pull up. You want those nice spikes in the middle. Start with 1 and then go all the way around. And I like to kind of cover the top surface of the dot. Imagine it's like a little head and you want to cover it with hair. So I'm going to give him kind of like a little spiky flat top hairdo. And that's going to give the center petals a little support to work with because there's something standing in the middle that's going to help to prop them up. For our final step, we are going to grab our orange with our 81 and start putting on petals. We want to start kind of in the middle, and we're just going to start right here underneath our green and pull up and across. And that's going to make them look closed in to start with. They don't have to be exact or perfect. Just think about as you pull up, flicking across the middle. So it kind of helps to enclose that green a little bit. It's going to give it a little bit of support. We don't want to hide it completely. We want some of that green peeking out in the middle to give ourselves a nice natural look. For the second round of them, go just a little bit lower and pull straight up on some, across on the others. Try to go offset from the row before. And we're going to make this chrysanthemum by gradually going down the side of this dot and eventually pulling out instead of up. So we just keep working, keep putting on some nice, wild little petals, kind of more uneven and a little almost erratic they are, the more natural your flower is going to feel. So for my third row, I'm just going to start pulling out with them. And think about kind of gliding up the back of the petals before. So kind of push against them with the tip before you pull out. That'll make sure they're connected and then also give them that little bit of support they need to stand up. And they're going to flop over some, that's fine. Just keep going. And eventually start pulling out. So typically that happens for me on like the fourth row. When you get over here by the leaf, just do some right up against it. So you're kind of covering it up and everything's meeting together. And as you meet the surface of the cupcake, you can start piping on the actual cupcake, and this will give you a bigger blossom. And if you want them to be more supported, remember, go close to your frosting from before and then pull out from it just at the end. That's going to kind of make everything be like one nice supported mass there. So pull some up, pull some out, and that'll give you a nice kind of wild look to these. You can see it's kind of frilly, hairy, and it's doing its own little wild kind of natural thing. And just check the bottom, make sure you're kind of going to the edge of the cupcake paper. But you can see that gives us a beautiful, natural looking chrysanthemum. It's got a great fall color vibe to it, so I think it's gonna be perfect for our little set. For our second cupcake style, we've got our multi-flower with our piped marigold. And I've got my bags out and ready to go. You can see I'm going to use the marigold I had prepped and chilled in the refrigerator, but I'm going to be using that great burgundy, my light green, my dark green, and my orange. And I've also got my tips on hand. I've got a little spatula to handle my flower, and I've got everything ready to go. We're going to start with the dark green, work on the light green, get some of our berries on there. We can put on our little half blossom, and then we'll finish it by putting on that great little marigold we've got there. We've got our dark green ready to go. It's got our 104 tip on it, and I'm just going to pipe on some of those nice little ruffled leaves. Don't be afraid to really cover some surface area on your cupcake. Think about giving everything a nice little kind of bed to hang out in. We're kind of trimming the edges of our cupcake there. And that's going to make sure you got nice coverage on the surface area. And if there's any gaps between our little flowers, you'll have green peeking through, which will be a nice little contrast. Next, we're going to use our lighter green with that 102 tip. And I'm going to make those little petal shapes here. And so I just want to think about putting on the little berries. And typically they have just like a trio of little leaves that come out from underneath them. So I'm going to start with a little trio of leaves. And then I'm just going to add on some more. And I just kind of want to take up this area. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm gonna put on a couple of berries here, whatever works in this space once I've got my other elements on. So I just wanna make sure that the area is kind of prepped, and we can do as many as we need to later, and you can see that kind of fills in the void that we had left there. That was the top of our cupcake. So it's kind of prepared so we can fill in as much as we need to with berries next to our marigold and our little kind of half chrysanthemum. We're gonna go in and put a little orange on our cupcake to give us the look of a little half chrysanthemum. So I'm gonna start with my 81 and I'm gonna pull across those little leaves. So think kind of out from the center. And just pull some little leaves down here. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just think about making kind of a little fan shape there. And then I'm gonna grab my bag of light green. It's got my number 1 on it. And I'm just gonna put some little hints of little centers, so think lines. So I just want that little hint of color between the petals. I'm just gonna pull in the same direction. And then take your bag, flip it over so the U is facing down, and pull some petals, same direction, right on top of all that. So start right there at the base and just kind of go up and over. And it's going to look a little bit like a little blossom, kind of on its side, facing out for us. And we've just got a little bit of green kind of peeking through for ourselves. Now I'm going to go in and pipe some berries. So I just want to start over here in the middle of that little grouping of 3 and pipe that nice little elongated dot. And you can pipe however many you need to or want to. I just want to pull them in nice and close to that little half blossom. And I want to make sure I leave some space on here for my marigold. So I don't want to pack them in too tight. And I think for now 3 is going to look great. I can always go back and add a 4th or a 5th if I need to, if I got a little extra room down there later. I'm going to use my number 1 tip and just finish off the top of each one. And finally, we're going to finish up with our marigold that we piped on our nail. It's chilled. I'm just going to use a little excess color. I've got extra of my dark green, so just kind of fill in a little bit there, give it a place to nest and something to attach to, and then you can use your spatula or a flower lifter just to get that beautiful little marigold in place. And hopefully, if we planned our spacing right, it'll snug down in there and leave us without a lot of open space. If you disturb your flower at all, you can always keep your bags on hand and repipe a few petals. But if you leave them in the refrigerator, they should be nice and firm for you and they should be easy to get on there without disturbing them. And finally, on our dot decorated cupcake, we're going to do something really simple. We're going to use the bags and colors we already have to make kind of essentially a little chrysanthemum bud. So just the idea of a bud kind of about to burst open, it's nice, simple, and sweet and uses the bags and tips we're already utilizing. We're going to start with our lighter green with our 102 and just pipe 2 leaves. Think about them starting in the center, so fat end in the center of the top of that cupcake. And just 2 of those cute little green petals to make the idea of leaves. Next, you're going to use either your number 1 or 2, whatever you're most comfortable with, and we're going to start just a little bit away from the base of those petals. Pull 1 line up, and then just pull all the way around it. So just surround it, make some of those cute little spikes just to form sort of a little bit of a circle there in the middle, and just kind of fill in anywhere you need to keep it kind of approximately round. But you can see it doesn't need to be big and it doesn't need to take up a lot of space. Next, we pull out our bag of orange with our 81 and just start right at the top of the cupcake and pull just a little petal, gently kind of flopping over the middle. And it'll probably only take 4 or 5 of these to go all the way around. You can see they can overlap just a tiny touch, and then I'll pull just a second row anywhere I need to just to kind of round it out and even it out. In between those two petals and just pull kind of straight up rather than pulling towards the center when you finish. And that's going to give us the look of a nice little bud here on top with a little pair of leaves. And here we have our finished set of cupcakes. You can see we've got a really simple, easy style that's got a little bit of negative space, doesn't draw too much attention, looks kind of sleek and classic, which is fantastic. And we've got some big and bold ones that are also actually kind of simple because it's really just a single flower with a cute little element just to give it a little contrast like a leaf. And then we have our more complex ones that'll give you a little bit of challenge and introduce some new flowers and details and give you some bright pops of color. And together it makes a nice little balanced set of cupcakes. We've gone with a fall color palette for this one just because I always think of chrysanthemums as coming out during the fall because that's what they do in our area. And they're a great one that come in a lot of rich fall colors as well. So it kind of works well for the season. If you enjoyed this lesson and you want to check out some of our others, try checking out our video on basic cupcake styles and also some of our other flower cupcake series sets like our rose or even our great one on dahlias. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.